Can I have a motion to open the meeting?
I'll second.
Mr. Cathcart? Mr. Cooney?
Here.
Mrs. Kraft?
Here.
Mr. Phytros?
Here.
Mr. Gomes?
Here.
Mrs. McNeil?
Here.
Mrs. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mrs. Velez?
Here.
Vice President North is present, and President Martinez is absent this evening. Also present is Dr. Angela Bender and State Monitor Tom Egan and Board Attorney David Disler. Please stand for the pledge. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Ridgeville Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Municipal Building, Board of Education offices, and district website. Public participation. Oh, that's not read. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually via Zoom. There are no minutes to approve. Do we have any communications? Anybody have any communications? Okay, so then we'll move to committee reports. Oh. Sorry, I'm going to ask you all to bear with me. This is my first time. So let's move to committee reports. Negotiations, Trustee McNeil.
Yes, thank you. The negotiation committee met on March 22nd. Trustee Phytros, Trustee Velez, myself, David Disler, and Dr. Angela Bender and Carrie Grabstein. We had a session with the RPEA. Want to give thanks to their chairperson, Ms. Maggie Steele. We've made some substantial progress toward an agreement. So we're continuing down that vein and are looking forward to reporting news next time.
Trustee Cooney.
Good evening. We did not have a B&G meeting during the month of March. However, we would like to keep the public in the know and be aware of what projects are currently being worked on. The boiler stairs replacement at Grant is scheduled to start in April. The unit ventilator project at Lincoln project will be completed over the summer. Estimated completion of upgrades to the culinary room and science labs is scheduled for August 28th. The rooms in Lincoln School that were flooded due to pipes that burst have now all been repaired. The only thing pending is that the company Johnston Controls needs to replace the heat detector in the building automation system. The purchase order went out to them on March 30th, so we're expecting that it will be repaired by sometime next week. The following ROD grant applications have been completed and submitted. In the junior high school, the HVAC in the cafeteria and the auditorium, the HVAC in the gymnasium, remove and replace the TPO roofing at the rear of the building, remove and replace existing translucent panel windows in gymnasium, remove and replace existing windows in the industrial arts wing, remove and replace existing asbestos flooring and install new 12 by 12 VCT in the second floor corridor, grant elementary school HVAC in the all-purpose room / gym, remove and replace existing asbestos flooring, faculty room, main office, corridor A, nurse's office, kitchen, and custodial office. In Lincoln Elementary School, the HVAC for the cafeteria. In Roosevelt School, remove and replace the existing door and hardware with fire rate units with safety glazing. We do not have any specific set dates for these ROD grant applications. However, the board would like to thank Ms. Grabstein and the administration for going after these additional monies. Thank you.
Policy, trustee Rodriguez.
The policy committee met on March 30, 2023. All committee members were in attendance. We discussed the resolution presented on tonight's consent agenda. There is no change in policy and at risk of liability if the policy and regulations are not enforced. The fees being charged in most cases amount to the tuition of one child.
Faculty and programs, trustee Kraft.
Hi, good evening. The Faculty and Programs Committee was scheduled to meet on the same night as the Policy Committee meeting, but because of the overage of time that the Policy Committee took, we had to reschedule our meeting. So we're hoping to meet next week to discuss the items on our agenda, which include the preschool program, our ELL program, and the athletic programming for the spring and fall.
Finance and insurance, trustee Gomes.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met this past Monday, the 3rd. Present were Vice President Ort in place of President Martinez, Dr. Benda, Ms. Grabstein, State Monitor, Mr. Cathcart, and Mrs. McNeil. We began our meeting by discussing the need to go out to bid for food service. This is something that's required, even though we're happy with the service. The contract is only for 5 years. We also discussed whether, the delivery of any kind of outside food, which is prohibited. So the students can't be ordering like Uber Eats. The next thing we discussed was our budget. The BA informed us that the budget still has not been approved by the county. As soon as that's approved, we'll get further information from her. Our next topic that we discussed was the pre-K budget planning worksheet, which was somewhat of a spirited debate. There was lots of questions back and forth. And we were assured by the state monitor that the worksheet that was presented to us is correct, and that we're probably looking a little too deeper into things. The next thing that we discussed was the busing software. We were presented with just a spreadsheet of the number, and we asked for an explanation of what this software really does. This software actually allows us to route the buses. It also has the ability to track the buses, and parents can actually be able to track the bus. It can be paired with cameras on the bus, and it does the state required reports. Another feature of the software is that it will inform us when the buses are due for inspection. We continue our discussion on busing with the need for a busing audit. And we've asked the BA to provide us with some additional information so that we can properly be aware of the true cost of our program. The state monitor and the BA would like to recommend a switch in our health insurance broker. However, they do feel the current risk manager is happy, and so they would like to keep that risk manager. The final topic that we discussed was the students who were supposedly attending school here but may not be residents. One case was brought to the superintendent. She examined it and felt that it met the residency requirement. So that case has been closed. All the other cases are currently being investigated. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm Chair of the Personnel Committee, so my report is the Personnel Committee met on March 28th via Zoom. All committee members were present, and as well as Dr. Bender. Discussion regarding the procedure for non-tenured renewals for next year. The committee requested that information be provided to the board regarding hire dates and expected tenure dates. Dr. Bender has had preliminary discussions with building principals regarding the recommendations for next year, and will bring recommendations to an upcoming committee meeting. The committee also requested that we be made aware of any employees being given a corrective action plan. We discussed the busing coordinator position, both the need to fill the position on a permanent basis and an updated position description. Dr. Bender will begin updating the description, and I believe it's on tonight's agenda. Discussion regarding the soon-to-be vacant business administrator's position. The committee felt that we should be advertising immediately for an interim BA. Committee requested that the position of interim BA be advertised and filled so that we can begin to search for a replacement. I know that that process has begun. I'm not certain if it's been actually posted yet. Today it was posted. Discussion regarding the need for someone to head the pre-K program. Dr. Bender is currently investigating what is required and appropriate and will work to create a job description and report back at a future date. Recently, the board has been made aware of some areas of concern regarding teacher staff conduct. Discussion took place regarding the appropriate procedure for students and parents to notify administration of their concerns and how this should be addressed. Further discussion is needed. I have one other update on the superintendent search. HYA, our search firm, will be at our next public meeting and will be providing a report for the public on the results of the survey and the town halls. Thank you. Is Homeschools Connection Subcommittee.
At the last board meeting, we briefly discussed the homeschool connection, but Dr. Bender did inform myself and also trustee Carol Velez that the homeschool connection subcommittee members did meet, and there's a possible homeschool connection event sometime in May. Okay, thank you, Dr. Bender.
Do we have a social justice update? Okay. That's President Martinez, so he'll provide an update at the next meeting. So we're up to that ends our committee reports. Superintendent report.
Good evening, everyone. As you can see, we have two of our finest at the high school here. We have Ashley Montoya and Gabriella Salaz. You want to give your report, girls?
Hello. Okay. Hello, my name is Ashley Montoya. Happy late spring, everybody. I would like to touch on a topic I have been honestly hesitant to talk about, partially because I believe opinions should be formed once a person has the best understanding of the said topic. However, I do not, but I will make best with what I do know. I do not know much regarding the old news of Ms. Demon's position as the middle school principal, but what I do know is that she touched many students and parents' heart. It seemed nobody could put into words how helpful she was to the middle schoolers. It was touching to see a lot of people have such good opinions about a staff member in their school making a positive impact. Despite all that being said, Ms. Demon's job as a middle school principal was not specifically designed to mediate middle schoolers' arguments or become their diet therapist. Even though she may have done that, I believe we should have a job just for that, not a disciplinarian role where, quote, troubled kids get sent home to be scolded and have their parents yell at them some more, or any staff member who has time on their hands to handle a situation and dismiss it completely. Not to say that it happens all the time, because another thankless act of being a teacher is being a student's therapist or a shoulder to cry on. But a person with a psychology education to offer nuanced opinions to the impressionable middle schoolers is preferred. And then offering resources to the students and parents if their mental health issues are distracting to their schoolwork. I would like to shed light on a personal experience. I had my first overwhelming panic attack in 7th grade when I got a math question wrong at school. And if it weren't for Nurse Erin and Mr. Rome, who used to work here, offering me helping advice, seeking a therapist for me outside of school, being a connection between my parent and I, to see said therapist, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I cope with the stresses of school much more better because of them. Now we have Miss Ava and Mr. Jarvis to help these students, but we don't have anyone for the middle school because, again, their arguments seem diminutive, but they're important, and we could take a lot of lessons from them if we share opinions on, hey, you shouldn't take it out on your teachers or other students or act violently. And the sad reality is use substances later on and abuse them. Typically, I would dismiss my opinions because, what would a 17-year-old girl that is still messing up know? However, I urge you not to dismiss it and look into something for at least next year so mental health issues can be addressed, especially for the middle schoolers.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to open with this month, April, we began our Autism Awareness Month. On March 23rd, I attended a multidisciplinary honor society induction ceremony here at our high school. We honored art, business, English language learners, Italian, Mu Alpha Theta, social studies, and Spanish honor societies. Some students were inducted into more than one society. Very proud of our high school students. Big round of applause. That was great, yes. Principals, the Director of Special Services, myself, we attended the Bergen County Education Job Fair in Upper Saddle River. That was held on a Saturday. And we actually met a lot of nice folks that we are going to be looking into to hire. Recess next week, Monday, the 10th through the 14th. And I would be really remiss if I didn't welcome back Alex Quintanilla, now SPC Quintanilla in the Army National Guard, will be deployed. He has been back to the RPHS. He came back, returned to us on March 22nd. Alex, thank you so much for your service. On Wednesday, the 29th, I need to report that the 8th grade students had the honor of listening to Holocaust survivor, Mr. Mark Schoenwetter, speak of his experiences. In their English classes, students had been studying the Holocaust and read Together, A Journey for Survival, written by his daughter, Anne Arnold. Students had the opportunity to ask questions and directly about his experiences. It was a very moving and powerful experience for all who attended. Thank you to the Schoenwetter and Mr. Schoenwetter and his family. Welcome back to our varsity baseball team. They returned from their trip, spring training in Florida. They got to play against a lot of other great schools, and we are happy that they had the opportunity to do so. Thank you to parents and for the staff that attended with them. On Tuesday, the 4th, which was yesterday, we had Mr. Rob Holliday. He visited the RPHS and actually spent time with our middle schoolers, the 7th and 8th grade, about anti-bullying and social media safety, and to the 9th through 12th graders about the dangers of vaping. A lot of great things happening here at the junior senior high school. For some elementary news, I'd like to share that if you weren't here last night, you missed an awesome event. The Grant School put on their musical and it was fabulous. Broadway, better watch out, they're coming. On the 28th, we had the 6th grade had an opportunity to participate in a Spanish field trip to see flamingo dancing. They had a great time and they were back in time for lunch. On Friday night, the 31st, I was able to attend the 6th grade mixers that was held at Grant School and hosted by the Grant School PTA. All 3 elementary school 6th graders got together and had the opportunity to enjoy each other's company and dance and have other fun. Let's see. Oh, today we also had bridging between the elementary schools and the junior high with Miss Cavens. She started her rounds to introduce herself with the 6th graders. Thank you, Miss Cavens, for that. Okay. And that concludes my superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bender. Now we have the state monitor's report.
Thank you. And before I begin, a recommendation to the board, or request, I shouldn't say recommendation, a request that my state monitor's report, I'm allowed to present it before the superintendent, because how can I follow up on a report like that? So, with
I will
regard.
see what we can do about changing the order of the agenda.
Thank you. Well, of course, my first official thing is to certify again that there is sufficient funds available to the district, and that we will not be in deficit at the end of this year. Everything is going good. There have been many questions that I've received about the early childhood. That's all being handled. I was in touch with the county, and between Friday and next week, I will be able to clear and get approved all inspections of the two school groups that will house a total of 4 classrooms in September. And as I explained to the board earlier, I'm getting involved with the issues with Little Ferry about transportation, and I'm hopeful that we can get that resolved quickly. So ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. We will now listen to citizens' comments on agenda items. Belinda, will you please read the rules?
For tonight's meeting, there will be 2 public comment sessions, one on agenda and one off agenda. There is a sign-up sheet on the podium. We'll call your name in the order that you signed in. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to speak during each comment period. Time cannot be transferred to other individuals. The public comment period will be 1 hour for on-agenda items and 1 hour for non-agenda items. The board will not entertain public comments. Please remember to state your name, mailing address, and to keep your comments brief to allow sufficient time for other members of the public to speak if they wish. Thank you for your cooperation and support.
Can I have a motion to amend the order of our meeting so that new business is included with our agenda items?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
David, can you let us know, do we need to read the new business agenda, the new business items before the public comment period?
You need to, oh, you're talking about the ones that are presently, when you say new business, the business that you're referring to is ones that are not at the agenda items, right? That within the other 40 hours, is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Yes, you should read those in before public comment. This way, the public can obviously comment on it accordingly.
Okay. Trustee McNeil, would you please read in the new business agenda items?
Sure. Item number 1601, job description for busing coordinator. Resolved that the Board of Education, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and Business Administrator, approves the revised job description for busing coordinator. The job description is attached to new business for the trustees. 1701, salary guide review. Resolved that the Ridgefield Park Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Business Administrator and Superintendent of Schools, approves NJSBA to conduct a review of the teacher and secretary salary guides. Review of the teacher guide is included in the district's annual dues. Review of secretary guide is $200 per hour for an estimated cost of $600. 1702, withdrawal of capital reserve to support the 2023-2024 budget. Whereas the State Department of Education requires board action for withdrawals from the capital reserve account. And whereas there is a need to fund $4,159,937 to support the 2023-2024 budget proposal, and the district has $159,937 available for withdrawal from the capital reserve account. Therefore, be it resolved that the Richfield Park Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the business administrator and acting superintendent of schools, we need to modify that, approves withdrawal of capital reserve in the amount of $4,159,937 to complete the following projects pending approval of ROD grant applications submitted to the New Jersey Department of Education. The district's long-range financial plan will be amended as needed. Do I have to? The projects that this covers are in public content section and will be visible to you. They're the ones that trustee Cooney spoke about a little bit earlier. 1801, use of facilities fee schedule. Resolved that the Richfield Park Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the business administrator and superintendent of schools, approves the following use of facilities fee schedule effective June 23rd, 2023. $500 per week, non-sports related summer camps, $250 per week, $50 per day for sports camps and clinics, $50 per hour, $75 per hour if custodial overtime for outside entities. Organizations will be assessed custodial fees if daily cleanup requires additional custodial services. 1802, use of facilities. Resolved that the Ridgefield Park Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the school business administrator and superintendent of schools, approves the following use of school facilities. Junior senior high school gym for the Board of Recreation, Saturday night hoops tournament on Saturday, May 20th. Junior senior high school gym for the Lady Scarlet Summer Basketball Camp, Monday through Friday, June 26th through June 30th and June 10th through June 14th. The junior senior high school gym for RP Hoop Summer Boys Basketball Camp, July 3rd through the 7th and July 17th to the 26th, excluding 4th of July. And Roosevelt School cafeteria, gym, classrooms, and outside areas for the RP After School Program Summer Camp, Monday through Friday, June 26th to August 4th, except July 4th from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you. We will now take comments on agenda items. Susan DeSantis.
Susan
I just
DeSantis,
like, I'm
15
sorry,
Oak
Mrs.
Street.
DeSantis, if I might interrupt you for just one second.
No.
For those folks at home, for those folks at home, I just want to remind them, if they don't know, that if you go to the district website, a full printed agenda is in PDF format under board meetings, our district board meetings, and then you'll find it under the latest agenda meeting and you'll see it in print as a PDF file.
Okay. Resolution 907. We approved $23,000 for CUSAC a year ago. Why under Barry Haynes?
I'm sorry, Mrs. DeSantis, I didn't hear your full question.
Okay. Barry Haynes had us approve $23,000 to get up to speed for CUSAC last year. And now this is additional. Correct?
Yes, I don't know if the whole 23,000 was spent last year, but I know that this also is coming out of, I believe, this is coming out of either ESSA, CRESA funds, different funding for this summer. But we're
So,
always revising our curriculum.
okay, so does this mean that he didn't meet CUSAC still?
I don't want to say I'm sure we met CUSAC, but I believe that everything is now settled and we're passed.
Okay, 908. I see quite a few new special ed positions on the agenda. Why is this one being eliminated?
This one is being eliminated because the students they're no longer students in that course, and we're substituting that now with another course.
Okay. Um, Okay, resolution 1303. Could you tell us a little bit about what he's going to do? The resignation and appointment of Charles Glover. As a behavior technician?
Yes, I found him.
Okay.
Okay, it took me a while to get through my agenda here. Mr. Glover was currently, before this appointment tonight, an aide in the district, but he also happens to be certified
Okay.
for a behavior tech, and that's why we're making the move.
Now, what is he going to do? You know, just briefly, what is he doing?
He does behavior. He works under Mr. Hayes. I was going to say John Hayes. That's who he works under.
Okay. Brian, do you have any idea when the ROD grants, they'll have a decision on that?
No, that we don't have an answer on that yet.
No general idea or anything? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Janet Mulul, please.
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. Most of my questions are really on the new business portion. The ROD grants. So are we taking the 4+ million out like ahead of time so that we can cover those projects and then the ROD grant will kind of reimburse? Are they connected? That was the impression I got.
I'm going to try to answer that, even though I'm
Okay.
not finance.
Okay.
The ROD grants, we have to have whatever the percentage is. They pay and we pay. Let's say it's 60-40, 40-60, whichever
Okay.
way it goes. We have to prove that we have the actual amount that we would have to contribute.
Oh, okay.
We have to have it already in our financial.
Available.
We have to
Okay.
have it.
Okay. And doing that, does that impact any of our other programs? No.
No.
Okay. Okay, and there was another question I had. The students that are being identified as not really living in district, will they then be kind of thrown out, so to speak?
So
They
we
will
have,
be sent back to the district they should be in?
Mrs. Malul, it's not an agenda item. Can you come back
I
up?
thought,
now?
okay, I thought that was in the report, one of the reports that was read. That's why I brought it up now.
Hold on, I'm reviewing.
You're referring to 908 Elimination of Special Education Program. That's what it's answered had.
No, I thought there was talk about, I don't remember which committee mentioned it, but I thought, Dr. Bendy, you said something about that they were
I'm sorry.
identified.
Yes, it was in a committee meeting.
Oh, okay, so
That
that's
was-
not
that was
on
the dis-
agenda.
It's not on agenda, but I will
Okay.
be more than happy to answer what I can for you.
Okay,
So when we identify, we meaning principals or
Right.
anyone identifies a potential student
mhm,
that may not reside in the village,
mhm,
there is a process that we go through to investigate whether or not the claim is accurate. The parent, the guardian receives communication from us. And then we go through the process of asking for documentation. There's several steps.
Do you mind if I
Okay.
jump in as well?
Sorry?
Do you mind if I just add one layer to that? The district, of course, does not throw out any student. There's a lot of procedural safeguards for all students and all participants involved as well. So it's not that we could just take that step. That's all I wanted to add.
Okay.
I think what he's saying is that there's safeguards for the students, even if they don't live in district. We can't just kick somebody
Right,
out.
but
of the
I'm
school
saying
system
that the process should
There's a
be,
process that needs to
okay,
be completed.
because taxpayers are paying then for students that aren't actually in our district. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dwyer?
Dawn Dwyer, 199 Bergen Turnpike. I just have one quick question in regards to the job description for the busing coordinator. Can you tell me what the difference is from the previous one to the current one that's on the agenda?
I can try.
I give you some summaries of what I know.
Okay.
It includes a desire for the busing coordinator to have a CDL license for one. It also outlines the job responsibilities a little bit more accurately than the previous job description did.
Large bus class.
It's really just a much more detailed job description. There are no. I thought there were hard copies of the new business items on the table. No?
No, the attachments aren't there. At least I didn't see it anyway. Yeah.
Oh, you can go online, yeah.
Yeah.
Trustee McNeil is going to give you hers.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is this like the first step to posting the job for a more permanent coordinator? Or is that not in the works yet?
It's the first step in that process. Yes.
All right. I'm just trying to figure out what it means for Mr. Green. I'm hoping he doesn't go anywhere.
I think he's encouraged to apply.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Rafferty.
Sorry, little problem at home. I figured this was to be on agenda because it has to do with your superintendent's report. Everybody in the audience seems to feel the same way. It is so refreshing to have someone who has answered every question that has been posted to her tonight. And also to hear from all of the board members that she was at everybody's meeting and was able to answer your questions. And I would hope we would consider all of that when making a suggestion, when making a decision on the superintendent of schools. When Dr. Bender speaks and does her report, I've said it before, she sounds like a little kid. She is so excited about the schools, although she's a little partial towards Grant School. You're not going to replace that. And I ask each of you to consider that and think strongly on it. Thank you. I missed one point. Mr. Regan was absolutely correct. He cannot follow up on Dr. Bender. Nobody can follow up on Dr. Bender, people, all right? Let's get it together. Please.
Do we have anybody on Zoom to promote? Okay, so believe we can go on to moving our motions. Trustee Kraft, would you please move faculty and programs?
Sure. I make a motion to move FP 901 to FP 910.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Bender, if you could just, again, on the, I'm following up to what Ms. DeSantis asked about the curriculum writing for 50,000 not to exceed. Can you just give an explanation of that again? Be- 907, no, no, it's 907.
It's about the
Elimination
curriculum
of
writing for the
special ed
summer.
went to
Yeah, I
908.
found it. Thank you. So we have curriculum writing. These are from the curriculum office. And I did tighten up, I will say, some of the writing with my administrative assistant because I felt the need to clarify before it got on the agenda. And I apologize because now I recall what happened. I wanted to make sure that the funds were actually in the accounts before I put it on the agenda. That's why if the board did not get it in advance, I apologize.
So is this
So
a
there is
not to
curriculum-
exceed 100,000 because it's two separate?
Two separate accounts. And that's not to exceed 50,000 and not to exceed 50,000. So they're revisions. And then the first one is for CUSAC compliance. That's the way it was written. I have to say that we always, our curriculum is fluid. And there's always tweaking happening with our curriculum. And if there's an area that we feel, and I'll give an example, I have concern for our fine performing and practical arts here at the high school, the curriculum, because we haven't had a supervisor to really pay attention to it. So I'm going to recommend that that is one of the focus points in this writing for this school year, for the first one. And as well as the second part where it's program revisions, that's something also that we need to look into. The pacing guides, the program resources for those that don't have it in front of them, and common assessments. This is going to be a collaboration between the staff.
Dr. Brenner, moving forward, I think in fact, and we didn't get to meet for faculty and programs this week because of the policy committee, but I think it would be helpful for the board before voting on resolutions such as this, that we have more specific information.
Yes.
If we're not in compliance with CUSAC, what work is being done specifically to address those needs?
Yeah.
And the
I
work that's
agree
going to be
with
done,
Ms.
that's it.
Kraft, because as you know, I'm back and I'm not 100% intimate with what has been happening here yet. But I know that when I received this, that it said it needs CUSAC compliance, and I'm thinking myself what I would like to address. So I'm going to have to get back to you with more details from Dr. Hayes.
I just think as a board, we're being asked to vote on something and we don't have specific details as to what we're voting on. So that puts us in a really uncomfortable position because we have an agenda item with no backup documentation to support why we're voting yes or no on it.
Well, that's on our end, right? So that's curriculum writing, and I'm asking that I will get back to you with any other information because I don't have it for you here at this moment.
I'm going
You can pull it if you'd rather.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to make a motion to table 907 since it's not in place until the summer. We
Correct.
could just have a little bit more time to understand exactly what it is.
I'll second that motion.
Mrs. Kraft, thank you for bringing that up. And Mrs. McNeil, I agree. Thank you. I will definitely get more information.
Thank you.
Okay, so I need a roll call on the motion to table 9.07. Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion to table passes. Now we go back to the original motion to move 9:01 through 9:10, excluding 9:07. Jody made the motion, Diane seconded. So now roll call, second roll call. Mr. Cooney,
Yes, with the exception of 9.07.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes, with the exception of 9:07.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
and I also approve. Brian, can you move? Oh, there are no buildings and grounds, sorry. Trustee Gomes, could you move finance and insurance?
Yes, I move FI 1101 to FI 1111.
Second.
Any questions? Ms.
I have a question. Do we have a report in regards to the preschool committee meeting? I believe they met. So who will provide us with an update?
I was not aware of the meeting, so I'm going to ask, I think, Mr. Egan, will you have any information on that by any chance? I mean, I can get it for the next time, but I don't know about the meeting.
Yes, I'm referring to the Early Childhood Advisory Council meeting.
I'm sorry, so I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Egan.
So I'm just going to make a comment. 1111 was not on the original agenda that the board had as a pre-read. Dr. Vedder, this is just standard for a student that's hospitalized at the moment?
Special education. I apologize. That must have come in last minute for the Monday submission to the public. That's obviously a student.
And the only other comment that I want to make, because there was a lot of conversation about the early childhood grant of almost $1.1 million. And in our finance committee meeting, Mr. Egan, you spoke about from a financial aspect, the board is good with approving this. And I think what Trustee Rodriguez brought up is the actual implementation is a TBD, but in the interim, approving the budget planning worksheet makes sense. Did I characterize that correctly?
I'm not sure if you did. Where I'm coming from is if the budget for the early childhood has already been approved by the state, and basically what the school district does is we're the flow through situation where we give the money to the two. Basically, most of it is to the two designated schools that are gonna take the majority of the kids into their district, into their classrooms.
Okay, and then
Can I
the
just make a-
actual program administration as a separate conversation after we approve this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just a little bit concerned. There seems to be okay, so the advisory council membership is required by code. Okay, there was a meeting. Can I just make a suggestion for one of the board members to be part of the
Do we know who's
meeting?
even on this advisory committee?
Well, the advisory committee, I'm just reading this from the NJDOE slideshow presentation that we have access to. So the advisory council membership is required by code, and you need parents, community stakeholder district, you need a CPIS, a Head Start agency if applicable, student district personnel. And if I remember correctly, Sharon Ramirez was on the committee. Nikki Scher, who is a district employee, she's a CP, she's listed on the on the grant. She's listed as CPIS. Mary O'Neill is on the committee. Who else was on the committee? It was Mary O'Neill, Nikki, it was Sharon, Francine.
Donna Noonan's on the committee.
Yes, how can I forget you? Donna Noonan, yes, thanks. So Donna Noonan, come here. Come please, because I'm just concerned. So she's on the committee. Thank you, Donna.
Hi. What do we need?
But
Can we do this off agenda? I will bring this up off agenda. I mean, I figured let's bring this up now because it's actually preschool education expansion aid, additional funds. The preschool is on the agenda. So that's why I felt that it was appropriate, and we're discussing it right now. So
yeah,
Just
and
since
that
we're
was
in the
the,
middle of motions, if we could ask you to come back on off agenda items, that would be awesome. Thank you.
and Berlinda, that's why I asked the question of Mr. Egan. So in terms of what we are doing is just accepting the state aid. The program itself, I agree with you, requires oversight, understanding, but in terms of accepting the money, that's what we're doing now.
And if I may add a comment to that, that's all we're doing, and any recommendation by the board or the community to have oversight on it, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the roll. Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros.
Yes.
Yes, on all, except the ones you have to abstain
Yeah,
on,
well,
correct?
Voting on yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion passes. Who moves consent? Trustee Rodriguez, would you move consent agenda items, please?
Sure. I so move consent agenda items 201. It's just,
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any question? Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
and I vote yes, motion passes. Diane, would you please move personnel?
Sure, I move 1301 through 1306.
Second.
Any questions? Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros.
These also include the new positions. Does this also include the new business?
We're going to move new business as
you're-
separate, just so as not to confuse anything.
Okay, so, yes, to everything except for those I'm precluded to vote on.
Thank you. Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion passes. So now we're going to move the new business items.
No,
No, because
we changed.
we changed the order of the meeting. That was one of the motions I made before we started public comments. So, Diane, would you move all the new business items?
Sure, I move 1601, 1701, 1702, 1801, and 1802.
Second.
Brian? Any questions? Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
I'm a yes to all except for the transportation one in lieu of the Little Ferry Richfield Park issue with transportation right now, so I'm an abstention with the transportation position.
thank you. Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Velez,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Motion passes. Okay, this is exhausting. We're going to have a hearing of citizens off agenda items.
Before we begin, can we let these two fine young ladies go home? They have school tomorrow.
Please. Didn't mean to ignore you. Thank you so much for your patience. And we appreciate your
Thank you for
report
coming.
and your coming.
Thank you.
There's only one, Janet Malul.
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. I'm decided today to take a look online and see what districts in the county, in the county and actually in the state, we're looking for superintendents. And I ran across something kind of that I guess I want to know what if you guys are aware of it, or is this something just a little different than what I've ever seen before? It was calling for a regional superintendent of instruction, and the location was Richfield Park. But it's under the company of Uncommon Schools. That's not us, is it? Okay, because I saw that and I was trying to figure out, like, were we also looking, because this was posted the end of March, so it was just a few days ago. And I wanted to see whether we were looking, it just seemed weird that it would say regional superintendent, because we're certainly not regional.
I think Uncommon Schools is a, I think it's a charter school?
It's charter. Yeah, there was a whole load of them. The other thing is our search still open? And I ask that because I ran across it evidently in New York State listing. But it says this job listing is no longer active. So I'm wondering, have they finished their search?
No, I think the application period closes May 5th. Thank you.
Okay, well, evidently New York has taken it down. I just want to say again that judging by the schools in the area that are looking or have recently just hired people, I'm very, very concerned about what we will get. There are just too many good schools out there that are looking, good districts. And not to say we aren't, but we do have our problems. And I read that description that they have, and I still say, I think it's unfair to the applicants because it's not really telling the whole truth. So you have people that are going to apply and maybe say, gee, it's a really cute, quaint little town, and I can't wait to come, to really interview or whatever, and then find out, oh, well, we have a state monitor, and oh, we've had this in our history, recent history. And it just, I don't know, it just doesn't put the right setting in my mind to attract the best that there is. And knowing we have somebody, in my mind, I don't care personalities or anything else, but what I see her doing educationally is phenomenal from where things were years ago here. And I just, like I said, I'm just hoping that things go the way I'm hoping they go. But, we brought somebody else, we put somebody else in this position as a temporary who seemingly had all the great credentials. You could have all the credentials in the world, but if you can't apply them properly, or communicate with the community and with your staff, then it's useless. And I will leave you with this. I student taught with a woman who was mathematically brilliant, beyond brilliant. Yet she couldn't relate to anybody in the classroom. And the staff, the teaching, the professors said to her, don't you think you want to do something else? She said, no, I want to teach. One day she said to us, doesn't it bother you when the kids ask questions? Okay. And I ran into her a year later after we had graduated and we were working. And she said, I went into research. She said, because the kids at Stuyvesant High School in Brooklyn, in the city, weren't smart enough. So it's not just about credentials. It's about being able to relate to the public and be able to relate to this town. Because we do run a lot of programs, and there's a lot of times I know Dr. Bender has come and even assisted. And I didn't see that with Dr. Haynes. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Malul. And I would agree. I think that we all want the best for Ridgefield Park, even with our blemishes. Is there anybody to promote? I'm sorry. Okay.
I was after Janet, but I think I signed the wrong page. Jennifer Schmidt, 138 Fifth Street. I had some questions actually about the truancy officer and the investigations prior to Mr. Cooney actually bringing it up. I didn't know that it would be brought up. So some of those questions are answered, but I have a few new ones. Is the truancy officer, I know that got approved like a few months back, I believe, at a Board of Ed meeting. Is that basically a staff member that's just receiving like additional compensation to act as a truancy officer, or is this a full-time position?
It's a full-time position.
Okay. So I had assumed prior, again, to Mr. Coney bringing it up, that this truancy officer is presumably doing their job and identifying some students that may not actually currently be residing in Richfield Park. And with that brings it, I suppose, to the superintendent, and who exactly then investigates these instances?
The truant, I'm going to try to take that the best that I can because I've only experienced it once so far. The truancy off. The process starts in the homeschool. In other words, Roosevelt, Grant, Lincoln, here, whichever school it is that identifies, or even if a resident identifies. But of course, you would have to have by name, and you'd have to have more information like where are they attending, which building. Then it gets processed to the truancy officer and he does his investigation. I don't know the length of time. I really don't. Like I said, I just experienced it for the first time. And once they go through the process with our Miss Thompson, she sends out the first letter. So in other words, they have to provide proof of residency. And I believe it's several documents. Water bill, lease, mortgage, several different documents, more than one. And then it gets evaluated there in that office with the truancy officer. And then if there's a time period, if there's other questions, then maybe a second letter will go out. And after that, it comes to me and I make phone calls. Example, the last one, I made a phone call. I had a long conversation with the parent and made my determination.
Okay.
That's in a nutshell, the process.
Okay. Thank you. I guess one suggestion, and also just again, concerns, surely there are quite a few. I would imagine to hire somebody full-time for this, to do this undertaking. And with, looking to the future, we're going to see more renting. We're getting, we have universal pre-K now. I think it'd be to our benefit that we require everyone to re-register on a yearly basis, or at least prove residency on a yearly basis. I don't know anybody who is a tax-paying resident that would be opposed to doing that. And
Ms. Smith,
Yep.
actually, we talked about that.
Of course you did.
It's okay. Thank you. So we did discuss that. I brought it up. I think it was maybe a couple, I don't know, meeting or so ago. And my suggestion is 2 grades. And I would have a conversation with, of course, the people that are in play here. And maybe 4th grade and 9th grade, 3rd grade. It depends on where we zoom in. And it's a process. I have all the letters already. It takes a lot of work. I don't want to overwhelm one particular office. So that's why I'm zeroing in with just 2 grades. And I think that again, it takes a lot of work. And I think that eventually we're going to weed out a lot. But thank you for actually bringing this up. And I'm glad that we beat you to the punch.
Yeah, no fun. Also, I mean, with the grades, maybe there's something to be said about what those, like you said, 4th grade, probably a good
Because
grade.
they register for kindergarten.
Right.
We get that. We register, anyone who comes into town. And so we have to look and identify where we feel there might be weaknesses.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't have to rattle off all the reasons why we need to do this. It's very important for the taxpayers and for fairness, as well as safety. And we talk about what a tight-knit community we are. And I think the most important thing here is just that we don't have, it's less of an issue if somebody was residing in town and maybe they've moved and they have, versus somebody who simply does not reside here and could be attending school in their district. So yes, I would appreciate that we really stay serious about this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Dr. Bender, if I can just clarify, so you would start with, let's say, fourth and ninth grade, but it would roll to different grades over a different period of time, or just the same grades always?
We didn't narrow down exactly what grades yet because we didn't get into a deep conversation about it. It is at the beginning stage. I really feel very strongly that it needs to be done. But again, it's April. And, there's only so much time.
Well, I think the action item is, and I know we've discussed it in some of the committee meetings that we've had, is that we need the plan set forward for what we're going to do so that it is an ongoing program that gets established to do it. Because there's a lot of upside to ensuring that we do that. The other thing, I just wanted to make a comment to Ms. Schmidt that the truancy officer is not only to look for people that aren't in town that are attending our schools, but it's to follow up with students who are not in school or habitually out or late to try to help them to come here so that we're sure that we're educating everyone to the best of our ability.
I would just also add that it's not a new position. We have always had a truancy officer. We have a new person in that position, but the position is not new. With my apologies, could I ask Donna Noonan to come forward now and make her comments?
Hello. What do you need me to say?
So
Ask a question, Mrs. Noonan?
Sure.
So you're part of this advisory committee for the preschool? You're a member of that committee?
Yes.
And did you meet recently?
Yes.
Okay. Can you fill us in on what happened at that meeting? And
Sure. Let me check my notes.
Thank you.
You.
Now you know what it feels like, Mrs. Noonan.
Sorry, bear with me. Okay. So basically, we had a discussion about the lottery system and how that was going to work. Our thoughts and ideas of what we would like to see happen.
I'm sorry, was there anybody from the district present at that meeting?
Yes, I'll tell you who was there. Barry Haynes was there. Allison Butler, Miss Manzo, myself, Kristen Oliveri, Mary O'Neill, and Sharon Ramirez. That's who was at
Okay,
the
I
committee.
guess my question is that I would expect, and anybody feel free to chime in, that if there was a meeting with district staff members, that a report would be generated from that meeting and submitted to the district so that we are aware of what's happening.
When was that, Donna?
March 22nd.
March 22nd?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And this is, just to clarify, this is the advisory council that met, correct?
ECAC, yes.
Okay. All right. So was there CPIS? The District Community Parent Involvement Specialist in attendance or no?
No,
So parent, okay. Oh, sorry.
no. It was just basically a discussion on things that we felt that we needed to do. We needed an Eckers checklist or a book or something. And we talked mostly about the lottery and what we felt was going to be a good fit for the lottery.
Donna, thank you so much.
Thank
We'll
you, Donna.
look to our district employees for a report as well.
Thank you so much, Donna.
Thank you.
Susan DeSantis, did you want to make some comments?
He signed it, but. Maybe,
I have to apologize. This is, it's like
you don't have to
Murphy's Law.
apologize.
I'm not only acting as Dr. Martinez tonight, but our business administrator also couldn't be here, so
I know should pass over for her. I think that you're doing a very nice job. It used to be easier when everybody just raised their hands than this back and forth stuff. I've been asking for months and months and months, if Barry Haynes is pre-K certified. I know Dr. Bender, you said that he would call me. Well, I know that you're not surprised that he hasn't. Does anybody know if he's pre-K certified?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay, in January, I mentioned this to Ricardo, a couple meetings ago. In January, the committee list was supposed to be on the agenda and approved by the board. So the public had knowledge of the committees and who was on them. And now it's April, and it's still not on the agenda, and the public doesn't have access to your committees and who's on them. So maybe you could put that on the next agenda so that we could see it.
It is posted on the website, and I will check into whether or not we need to officially approve it at a meeting or not.
It's been on every
I'll write
year.
myself the email right now.
Every year, it's on the agenda. That's a resolution.
I do know that it has been approved in the past, but I think if I remember correctly, I think we were advised that it didn't need to be approved as an agenda item. But I will look into that for the next meeting.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Sadler?
Hi, good evening. Jay Sean Sadler, 139 Overpeck Avenue. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I wanted to start off by just giving a shout out to a couple of staff members that have had a tremendous impact, on my children, my family. Mr. Tizano, Ms. Pucciarelli, amazing teachers. Mr. Jarvis, phenomenal social worker. Ms. Ava Kodrich, another phenomenal social worker. Mrs. Cavens, great principal, really appreciate very much. Ms. Thiemann, who we miss very much having here in the district. Dr. Bender, who we are thrilled to have back. Very nice to see you sitting there and nice to have you back. And also just our trustworthy, you guys aren't staff, but board. It's so refreshing to have a board that I feel like, while maybe I won't necessarily agree with all of your decisions, I trust you and I trust you guys to, conduct your business here with integrity and in the best interest of our shared community. So I thank you guys for that. While I acknowledge the glows, I think it's important as well to recognize the grows and the areas where we can grow. So speaking for myself, I have 2 children here in district, and my 2 children have had, they're different kids in many ways, and they've had very different experiences here. One of my children has had like a relatively great experience and pretty typical and straightforward, doing fine. My other child has had such a challenging experience here in the school district that really at this time, it's required for them to go elsewhere outside of the district in order to have a safe, nurturing environment that's conducive, to their optimal development as a young person. And for me, that's just unacceptable. I feel like all children, regardless of how they may happen to identify, regardless of their racial ethnic identity, regardless of if they're transgender or cisgender, regardless of if they're gay or straight, neurotypical, neurodivergent, an athlete or not an athlete, every child who attends our school district should be able to receive a quality education in a safe and nurturing environment, every child. And I do feel that while we do have lots of areas that, are places that I can acknowledge as goals, and I apologize to those staff members that I've missed. I'm sure I wasn't able to mention everyone. We do have areas for growth as well. I listened last week as my neighbor and friend, Miss Nancy Serrano, got up and spoke to some of her experiences with her child. And it broke my heart, to hear what was happening. But as I listened last week, I could personally relate to her story. And I've heard from other parents in this district as well, who maybe, aren't as vocal. They don't necessarily come out and speak publicly about their experiences, but they have them nonetheless, and they're just as valid. And we should recognize them. Whose children, their stories echo, the story that I can relate to, which Ms. Serrano spoke to last week. Without getting into too many specifics, there are folks here who have room for improvement. And I guess as we continue to go along, we can get into specifics. I've been trying to follow the chain of command. If I have an issue with a particular person here that's serving my children, I'd like to address that person directly. And then if necessary, move up the chain of command as needed. And I've been doing that. But one of the things I've noticed just a couple of areas where maybe we can get some improvement in general. Communications for me has been an issue as a parent. I feel like we need to get better as a school district where communication is concerned. I see my time is running out. Sometimes there are staff members who are great at it just because I feel like they just happen to be personally attentive to that and they take great care with it. But I don't know that there's a policy. Like I've sent correspondence to staff members who just have completely ghosted me, which to me is completely unacceptable. When I address folks about it, they still feel like it's okay and it's not a problem, but it is a problem. So I'd love to see a policy where folks have to communicate with parents, respond to our emails, and inform us when there's issues with our children. The other thing, I'll be really quick, I'd like to see continued work with the Social Justice Committee. I wanted to say more about that, but I don't want to speak too much longer. I feel like a lot of my experiences could be addressed there, and we haven't met as frequently as I would like to. And we haven't been as impactful as I would like for that committee to be. And lastly, the creation of a wellness center is something I'd like for us to think about more if possible. Thank you guys for giving me extra time. Appreciate you listening to me, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anybody to promote? Hello? Is there somebody? Good evening, Denise.
Hi there.
Good
Can you hear me?
evening.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, I don't know if you can see me, but you can hear me. Perfect. My name is Denise Santana Morales, 101 Hobart Street. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I wanted to give a shout out to Miss Fenton and Miss Ramba from Grant School. And that is in regards to the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful musical that took place this week on Tuesday, so yesterday. It was amazing. The kids had so much fun. We as an audience had so much fun. And it was really just really wonderfully put together. And I really wanted to make sure that Miss Fenton and Miss Ramba know just how much I, as a parent, appreciate this opportunity for the kids to go above and beyond the typical realms of school. I know the English, the reading, the math, it's all important, but to see an opportunity for kids that are gifted in the arts realm, it was just awesome to see. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Mrs. Hernandez and Miss Cavins and all the staff that is from the high school. They did spectacular with the lighting. I know sometimes in shows that is tough, but they nailed it perfectly. And even the high schoolers, what I loved about it is that was such an amazing moment where the community came together. And to see the kids, if you did attend, you just saw this joy and light in the kids. And I just wanted to make sure that the community is aware that an activity like this took place. And the reason I'm saying that is I would love to see more opportunities like this for our kids, because it really puts a light on certain kids that I think may be left in the shadows or kind of like fall through the cracks. There were kids on stage that I've never seen them so vocal ever, ever, ever. And it was just spectacular to see. And I loved also how Dr. Bender, you came and supported as well. That was awesome to see. And that's what I mean, like just seeing all of us come together. We always say that we want to be better, be better. So these opportunities that we can be better, I want to always remind us, we also got to put a light on those moments too. And so that's it in that regard. And then the other thing I also wanted to thank is how the community also came together with the 6th grade mixer. I loved how I heard so many positive comments. I wanted to give a special shout out to all the principals from the elementary schools and all the PTAs, Roosevelt PTA, Lincoln School PTA. Thank you for supporting the Grant School PTA to give the 6th graders an opportunity to get to know each other, because at the end of the day, all these kids are going to be together. So how awesome to give them an opportunity to start knowing each other. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for your time, and I hope everybody has a great evening.
Yes, please.
Mrs. Morales, I just want to add to that because I would be remiss if I did not mention the fact that the high school administration was here. Mr. Canova stepped in and helped do the music, the recordings. And a special part about that whole evening was the fact that we had high schoolers backstage helping our elementary kids. And if you recall, I even made that comment last night. Where else would that happen? Right? It was just such an enriching evening to see that, gratifying. And again, thank you to all the parents that did help out. Mr. Lingle was here to help, and he did his thing and the lights. And so it really was a community involved event. Just because it was the Grant School kids who put on the musical, it really was not just Grant School. Like I said, the high school took part and high school administration. So I want to thank them and everyone else who took a part again.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise, for your comments as well.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else to promote? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll
I
make a
have,
motion
I,
to adjourn.
I have one comment before you adjourn. I'm sorry. So there are a lot of parents from Little Ferry that whose children participate in the softball team. They are complaining about the field, that it's unplayable, and the kids are practicing 6 days a week, and they're wondering if there's a plan B, because the field is unplayable, and I don't know, they're having issues with conducting practice there. So if the administration can look into that and get back to the parents, and the team, or the team can get back to the parents and figure out an alternative plan or solution, that'd be great.
Yeah, I understand that the girls softball team was unable to have their home opener here because the field was not ready. So they had to go to the other opposing team's field. So again, once again, we're talking about fields and their readiness for our athletes. So something that I wanted to bring up at our faculty and programs meeting, just to make sure that our athletes are proud when they walk onto their fields and not forced to play in other places because our fields aren't ready.
Let me jump in because I had a conversation and I know Ms. Grabstein had the last conversation with one of the commissioners that I have to thank, that there is discussion about the fields with the commissioners. And, you know, they're looking to even do some fertilizing of the fields. So it's not going unnoticed. So I just want everyone to know that.
Do you have an idea of how long it'll take for them to get these fields back in any type of playable shape? And I mean, I think that's a fair question. I mean, is it a week? Is it 2 weeks?
I would be speculating right now, Mr. Phytros, if I said that, because that's,
And again, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I mean, the parents are calling and asking me to bring
I
it
think,
up. but
Mr.
I just-
Phytros, to your point, I believe that there's been a lack of communication in the past between the schools and the town about the readiness, because again, if the girls softball team was scheduled to open this week at home and the fields were not looked at or prepped prior to that start, there seems to be a lack of communication there because they shouldn't have to walk onto the field and then be told the day of the game that they could not play there.
I
Perhaps,
mean, there
Brian,
are,
perhaps we could put it on the buildings and grounds to address at the next buildings and grounds meeting.
I don't, yeah, and I don't want to offer something that I have no right in offering, but there are a lot of Little Ferry kids playing. Maybe we can reach out to the Little Ferry superintendent. Maybe something can be done. So if they are playing somewhere, it's not in Ridgefield Park, at least it's right across the bridge in Little Ferry. I know it's not, ideal, but it's better than going to the other town and playing. It's maybe more of a closer at home game, at least in the interim. I mean, it's something, but I mean, we just need to get these girls on a field that they can play on. And we got to do a better job of this.
Didn't we
So-
try that with the soccer and we weren't
I
able to
know,
use?
but I mean, we ask again. I mean, if it's no, it's no, but we try again. I don't know. What else do we? Soccer, I mean, we just try again. I don't know. But what are we gonna do?
Okay, I just thought that when it came up with the soccer team that Little Ferry's, that the Little Ferry town said that they don't even let Little Ferry Board of Ed use
Yeah,
their
I
fields.
don't know about I don't know about soccer, but I mean, maybe softball, we maybe have, because, softball is a sport that the Little Ferry Middle School, the Little Ferry School also uses. Maybe we can ask again. I don't know. Let's try anything at this point, but
Yeah.
Let's leave no stone unturned at this point for the kids.
Okay, we can have Angela we can have Dr. Bender follow up with the athletic director and see what we
Okay.
can get going.
Thank you.
Okay, can we please have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great job today, Michelle.
Thank you.